Starting the day off my least favorite way, a little bit of traffic. I'm headed into LA for a meeting today, but while I'm in the meeting, I want you to watch this. It's a clip that I recorded yesterday that kind of sets the tone for today's video. This was recorded before the Eggstravaganza event was announced, and we're going to talk about that a little bit later, after my meeting. Until then, just take a look at how I was feeling yesterday. Also, just take a look at my recent notifications from Pokemon GO. The Bug Out event ends in 3 hours. 1 day left until the Bug Out event ends. Also, eggs and stuff. Oh, need to work on your bug catcher medal? You can get incense. And the Bug Out event that ends on April 9th. It's like they're frantically trying to remind you that there's an event going on, even though it maybe doesn't feel like it. So I read this thread on Reddit this morning that I kind of sympathized with. It said that shinies shouldn't be the main focus, the main feature of the event. And I agree. And I think that's something that I've touched on before, in that shinies aren't really new content. And I think over the last two events, having shinies that are sort of difficult to find, that aren't appearing in the wild at high rates, has kind of left some people, bored. So with this event, with the Bug Out event, we've had incense that lasts twice as long and spawns Pokemon more often. But that's not really like a new event feature. We didn't have any new Pokemon introduced, even though there are some Bug-type Pokemon that haven't been introduced from Gen 4 yet. We didn't really have a new move like we've had added for PvP through some of the previous events. It's really just, there's incense, there's bug types, and shiny Scyther is the new thing. And it's pretty hard to find a Scyther in the wild. So I don't know. I don't know what the point of that is, other than I guess the last two events have been a little underwhelming, which is fine because no one needs to play, but then Niantic is frantically reminding us with push notifications that there is an event, as if not enough people are playing. So I don't know. Maybe back to the event design drawing board. And again, shinies are not really sustainable new content. Well, just finished my meeting. Figured I'd come to a nearby park. Turns out I can't get into this park. So here we are, standing right outside the park, and I got an EX Raid Pass. This one is for April 18th, so I'm guessing a new wave just went out. April 18th, maybe 17th, in other parts of the world, or 19th. Either way, April 18th in Long Beach. Unfortunately, I will already be in Singapore, so I'll invite someone to this one, but I won't be using it myself. I guess it doesn't matter too much that I can't get into the park because the only Pokestop is right here. At least shiny check a Cubone? Yeah. Reserved for youth activities by permit only. Well, there you go. Plane's coming in. Alright, well, back in the car here where it's not so windy and noisy. Let's talk about this new event. Nope, looks like that in-game announcement didn't go out. Well, here it is. I'll hop to the site. I'll hop to the Pokemon GO Eggstravaganza. This was announced yesterday, and again in yesterday's video. I said we'll talk about it today. So here it is. The Eggstravaganza is back. This is the third time I think that we've had this particular event. It's an Easter event without saying Easter, because we're trying to be inclusive here. Trainers, the Pokemon GO Eggstravaganza is back, and it's time to hop to it. Trainers. Pokemon like Pichu, Smoochum, and Magby will be available in 2-kilometer eggs, and egg-focused field research will be available to complete. Every egg hatched during the event will also include bonus candy to help you power up your newly hatched Pokemon. Buneary is joining the festivities. We have an Easter bunny, and if you're lucky, you may find the shiny form of this rabbit Pokemon. So there it is. Unlike the last two events, the shiny is actually being announced this time. It's Buneary. It's a pretty cute shiny. It gets nice and pink. cotton candy bunny, so cute shiny, not necessarily a useful shiny, but still something for the shiny hunters. And Baneri is, at least in my experience, more common than Scyther or Solrock or Lunatone, so it should be slightly easier to find if that's your main focus for the event, because otherwise your focus is hatching eggs. And raise your hand if you've enjoyed hatching eggs at any time in the last 6 months. I guess in the last 6 months. Okay, in the last 2 months. No one? Yeah, I don't think many of us have enjoyed hatching eggs in the last 2 months. So, features. Pokemon like Pichu, Smoochum, and Magby will be in 2-kilometer eggs, so that basically means baby Pokemon. Baby Pokemon are going to be in 2-kilometer eggs, so we'll also probably see potential shinies. These 3 can be shiny. We have Cleffa, Togepi, Wynot. There are a lot of shiny babies, and they're hatching from 2-kilometer eggs, which means they're a little bit more accessible than normal. Rather than hatching from 7-kilometer eggs, 2-kilometer eggs are obviously quicker to hatch. You can get through more of them. Even if you're just using your single infinite incubator, it's easy to hatch a couple 2-kilometer eggs in a session if you're doing a lot of walking. So it definitely makes the shiny babies more accessible. So there's one potential target for the event. Something to do is walk around, hatch as many eggs as you can, because those babies, those shiny babies, are going to be hatching from 2 kilometers. If you're lucky, you may encounter shiny Baneri, so that kind of goes hand in hand with the walking. Hopefully, Baneri's spawn rates are boosted to a point beyond what we saw for Scyther, or for Solrock, or for Lunatone for the past events. And you may find different Pokemon hatching from eggs than before, which means egg pools are changing. But that happens fairly regularly. That happens whenever new Pokemon are introduced. There is one baby Pokemon left that hasn't been introduced, and I think it's because Niantic still hasn't decided what they're going to do. That's Mime Jr. It's baby Mr. Mime, and as we know, Mr. Mime is exclusive to Europe. So I doubt we'll see baby Mr. Mime, Mime Jr. introduced during the event, but we will see a shakeup. We will see different Pokemon hatching from eggs. Can't say I'm particularly excited about that. If certain Pokemon become more common, then that would be nice. I still haven't hatched my own Riolu. I've only gotten 2 of those from trades. So if Riolu or some of the other rarer, newer baby Pokemon became more common, then I think people would appreciate that as well. Bonuses, double hatch candy. So that's good. As you're hatching these 2-kilometer eggs, 2-kilometer eggs give the lowest amount of candy for hatching, but we're going to get double hatch candy. We're going to have double incubator effectiveness, which actually means 2-kilometer eggs are only going to take 1 kilometer to hatch in a regular incubator, so you'll be able to hatch even more with your single incubator. You don't have to buy more. And lucky eggs will last twice as long, so if you're still grinding towards level 40, here's a good opportunity to get some extra XP out of your lucky eggs. We'll also have limited time egg-focused field research during the event, so I don't know if that means we're going to have Execute as rewards, or if we're going to get egg Pokemon as rewards, because if there's more opportunities to get these egg-exclusive Pokemon, like the baby Pokemon, through research, then that would be nice, because that gives you more opportunities to get shinies without spending money on incubators. So, overall, and as I'm getting sweaty in here, I think this event is probably definitely an improvement over the last 2 events. I think there's a little bit more going on, but before traffic starts, I'm going to head home, and when I get home, we can talk about kind of what's been going on or what's been going wrong in Pokemon GO's events lately, because I know you're feeling it too. I say before traffic starts, but there's always traffic in LA. Let's see if I can get lucky. Oh, it looks like the Eggstravaganza is starting early. I made it home with minimal traffic, so maybe that's a good sign for... Well, it's definitely not Trapinch, so I'll take it. Oh, got another one. No traffic, and it's a Porygon. So this is the part of the issue, I think, with eggs, with the Eggstravaganza. What's really new? It's shiny hunting. This is what I'm saying with the dissatisfaction with hatching eggs, is that I need Riolu. Riolu has been out for months. I've hatched plenty of eggs that could possibly contain Riolu, and I still don't have one. And I think a lot of people are in similar positions. whether or not it's Riolu or Chingling or Mantike. I was talking to my sister and my mom yesterday, and there are a couple Pokemon that they still haven't hatched. Granted, they don't hatch as many eggs as I do, but I think for a lot of players, regardless of how often you play, there might be 1 or 2 Pokemon that you still haven't hatched, and it just doesn't feel like it's worth it to continue buying incubators and hoping you're going to hatch these things when I still haven't hatched Riolu. So this is part of the problem, and hopefully something that the Eggstravaganza will help with. If baby Pokemon are hatching from 2-kilometer eggs, hopefully Riolu and the other sort of rarer baby Pokemon also have their rates increased. But it feeds into this bigger problem, and I'm going to open up my laptop here because over the past couple days, I've found a couple of threads that made it to the very top of the Pokemon GO subreddit and the Silph Road subreddit. This one on the Silph Road right here, top thread. Why longtime players are burnt out and lose interest in the game. This is a sentiment that I think is pervasive among the Pokemon GO community right now. And the first indication for me is typically the number of views that my videos are getting. So if you look at recent videos on the channel, the numbers are low. They're almost at an all-time low. Giratina Origin Form Raid Day or Legendary Lunch Hour hasn't even broken 100,000 views. By the way, I entirely forgot that Legendary Lunch Hour was today, and I wouldn't have been able to make it anyway because of that meeting I had in LA, so skipped the Giratina raids today. Guess I'll have to make up for it in Singapore. Shiny Latios Raid Week, 82,000 views. Lucky Friends, that's yesterday's video, 100,000 views. And for a brand new feature, this is kind of like, it should be an exciting feature. And 100,000 views is pretty low for something like that. So for me, it's just sort of this indication that Pokemon Go is sort of in a lull right now. And that's a feeling that's sort of echoed on these threads that are making it to the top of the subreddits. And this thread, for example, on the Silph Road subreddit, it shares a lot of feelings that I've had for a long time. If you've been watching the channel for a long time, you know that one of my oldest mantras is that new Pokemon, new shinies, are not necessarily new content. It's just more of the same, and what we really need is something to do with them. PvP should have filled that void. However, let's be honest, we've all seen it, PvP hasn't been received as well as I think a lot of us in the community hoped. There are definitely a lot of people interested in PvP, but it is not at all a feature that has been adopted by 100% or even near 100% of the Pokemon Go player base. So as it stands right now, if we look at a lot of the major feature additions, we got raids, we got research, we got the gym update, we got trading, and basically all of those updates, all of those features serve one purpose. They are new ways to acquire Pokemon. You can get Pokemon through raids, you can get Pokemon through trading, you can get Pokemon through research, you can get Pokemon through whatever the other thing that I said was. The gym update? I guess you can't really get Pokemon through that. And then there are other categories of updates. Raids falls into this as well, so does PvP, and I guess the gym update here, this is where this applies, is ways to catch Pokemon, and then there are things to do with Pokemon. So we have now raids. It gives you a reason to power up Pokemon so that you can take on these legendary raids or these solo raids if you want to. So you power up your Pokemon to do raids. You power up your Pokemon to take gyms, although that's not nearly as necessary with the current gym system, unless you're in a highly competitive area like Tokyo or like Singapore. And then we have PvP, which gives you another reason to power up Pokemon, an entirely different Pokemon than you would use for raids or for gyms. So to go back to the mantra of new Pokemon are not new content, it's more of the same thing. It's nice to have new Pokemon. It gives you something to do. It gives you a goal. But once you catch that Pokemon, and if it evolves, once you have enough candy to evolve it, you're done with that, and there's not really anything else. You know, at this point in my life, I would be happy never, ever, ever encountering another cast form again. And so even before Gen 2 launched, one of the things I said is that introducing new Pokemon, and at this point introducing new shinies, is not sustainable, and I think we're seeing that now. We're really seeing that over these last couple events, where people are just sort of losing interest. Even though new shinies are being introduced, they're not the easiest shinies to get, and that contributes to it. But just going after new shinies, it's only fun for so long. And by now we already have enough shinies in the game that the introduction of one new shiny is not really groundbreaking. It's not as exciting as it was when Magikarp, when the first shiny was released. And with all these recent events with the raid days, the reintroduction of raid bosses, the special raid weeks that we've had for Latias and soon for Latios, with the Eggstravaganza event, and even though we haven't seen it yet, potentially increasing the odds of finding a Pokemon, a rare Pokemon like Riolu. It all sort of feeds into this same problem where when new content, when new Pokemon, sorry, not new content, when new Pokemon are introduced and they're hard to find, it's fun to go out and try to find them, but after a certain amount of time, how many months now have I been wanting to hatch this Riolu? After a certain amount of time, something is going to happen that makes that Pokemon easier to obtain. Look at every single rare Pokemon that we've ever had in Pokemon GO. At some point, something happened that made them easier to obtain. Look at the original launch. The rare Pokemon were things like Lapras, like Snorlax, and those Pokemon eventually made it to raid battles. When raids were first introduced, those were some of the most highly targeted raid battles. They just became so much easier to catch. If you look at baby Pokemon, when the first baby Pokemon were introduced, before the rest of Gen 2 even launched, they were just out in the regular egg pool and difficult to actually hatch because there were so many other things hatching from those eggs, and now baby Pokemon hatch from 7-kilometer eggs, and it's so easy to get exactly the type of eggs that you want and hatch almost guaranteed baby Pokemon. The same goes for legendaries, and maybe it's even worse for legendaries because we've had so many legendaries reintroduced that get their special raid day where the shiny's released, there's an exclusive move. So it creates this feeling of why bother trying to get something that's rare or hard to get when later on down the line it's going to become so much easier, and in a lot of cases even better, by introducing the shiny or giving it an exclusive move. Why bother now when it's going to be easier and better later? So the issue, I think what's missing right now from Pokemon GO, unfortunately, still, is motivation or things to do with your Pokemon. It's nice to catch Pokemon, it's nice to go outside, and that's the point of the game, to go outside and explore and be with friends. We all love that part of the game. Catching the same things over and over again, doing the same things over and over again, without really having a goal that we're working towards, that is what's missing. And so to go back to the title or the overall question of the video, why have these events been sort of lackluster? It's because they're not adding much, really, to the game. So with this upcoming Eggstravaganza event, we're seeing a new shiny introduced, and most of the time the comments I see on my videos are, oh great, another shiny I'll never get. So a lot of people feel defeated when it comes to shinies. They're hard to get, and they're not, obviously it's not something for everyone to have, but constantly failing to get a new shiny when that's really the only new thing being introduced, it just feels like Niantic's adding all this new stuff, but I can't have it. So what's the point of it being there if I'm never going to encounter it in my regular gameplay? And then we're also going to see baby Pokemon in 2-kilometer eggs, which is just an easier and faster way to do the things that we're already doing in the game. And for most people, we have them all, but if you do happen to hatch, for me, Riolu, I'm going to hatch my Riolu and go, okay, now I hatched it, but I already traded for it and spent 50 rare candies to evolve it to Lucario, so now that I've actually hatched it myself, what value does that really add to my life and to my gameplay? So I guess what I'm trying to say is the issue is that a lot of these recent events really haven't added anything new to the game. The events that I've really enjoyed recently are the research days, community days, anything that's sort of a shorter window, but gets you out and playing with your community. Those are the events that I think are doing really well, that people are enjoying, especially as these research days have improved since Phoebus Day. People are enjoying these types of events a lot more, and I think that's something that Niantic needs to focus on. If they're not introducing a big new feature, something that's going to give us something to do with our Pokemon, some sort of endgame goal for players who aren't interested in PvP, then they should at least be focusing on the spirit of the game, which is community, togetherness, exploration, getting outside, and these research events, the raid day events, even simple things like Legendary Lunch Hour. These events are creating community, experience, shared experience. And I would think if you ask most people, they've probably enjoyed these types of events, the research days, much more so than the recent Equinox event, than the Bug Out event, or potentially this Eggstravaganza event. So when it comes to Pokemon Go, even if we are not talking about traditional game design and creating this endgame goal, giving us something to do with these Pokemon once we've caught them, we do have this very unique experience with Pokemon Go, which is the community, the social aspect of it. And by focusing on that, I think Niantic has made much more enjoyable events in that space. And we have plenty of those coming up throughout the summer. We got 4 Community Day dates announced. We have 3 Pokemon Go Fests coming up. There's a Safari Zone in Singapore. So I think the live events, the big events, the social events, even just a simple Community Day, are a lot more enjoyable now than just introducing a new shiny and making certain things spawn more frequently. I think we've kind of moved past that event format in a sense. I don't know. This is a discussion. The great thing about YouTube is that you can give your input down in the comments. Just let me know, how have you felt about recent events? Have you enjoyed them? Which events have you enjoyed? Which parts of the events have you enjoyed? Because all of that feedback helps to put together this picture of what's really working in Pokemon Go and what's not. Because I think myself, a lot of people, a lot of you, and definitely Niantic are noticing recently that interest in the game is sort of in a lull. And hopefully it's going to pick up soon, but for now, the last few events have just been sort of lackluster. So again, share your opinions, comment down below. I look forward to hearing from you. I'll see you tomorrow.